We're getting more reaction on this breaking news story. Jacob Zuma, his application in terms of a permanent stay of prosecution has been dismissed with cost. Ayanda Mhlongo is covering this case for us. She's getting some reaction. Ayanda, who do you have with you?
All right, thanks very much, Blaine. And let me quickly now bring in Mr. Nkosentshashezi. Of course, he is one of the organizers for the support for the former president, Jacob Zuma. Let's just quickly get reaction from him. Mr. Shezi, thank you so much for joining us, as always. Very quick judgment handed down here, unanimous judgment by the judges here. Just to quickly get your reaction.
Well, we are very disappointed but not surprised at all. We knew this is what was coming. But it calls upon every revolutionary in South Africa to rally behind the man President Jacob Zuma, who stood for radical economic transformation. And in fact, this judgment also tells us the much work that needs to be done for us to get into our total emancipation and defend those who fight for true radical economic transformation.
I hear your statement, Nkosentshashezi, about radical economic transformation, but, you know, we've spoken with you countless times, and the fact of the matter is these are serious charges, and I know you have said yourself, you're a leader of the ANC as well, that the ANC as a party, the government, needs to fight corruption, and so one could not take away from the fact that these are charges. You've admitted yourself previously that anyone who is found wanting, anyone who is found to be involved in corruption needs to be dealt with. But when it comes to the former president, you're not seeing it that way?
You see, when law is applied, it must be applied fairly and it must be consistent. You know, the fact that there are charges that have been brought against President Jacob Zuma does not mean that he's guilty. That is point number one. But secondly, it worries us to see people where there are institutions of government, institutions that fight corruption, that have pronounced on certain individuals. Those individuals have not been brought to book today. They are not in court. There are monies that have been exchanged illegally to buy certain positions. Those people have not been prosecuted today. So that worries us. And as revolutionaries, it calls upon us to take stock of what is happening and realize that our revolution will never be won in court. We need to mobilize society against the capitalist agenda that seeks to eradicate anyone who stands for pure transformation of this country, anyone who stands for emancipating black people and giving them economic freedom.
The former president had said that he felt that this matter was a campaign at the time when he was campaigning to become president of the ANC and thereafter president of the country. He had his time, he served. The case has now been reinstated against him, so it can no longer, one might see it and say it can no longer be viewed as having been a case that was laid out or a campaign by those who did not want to see him ascend to the presidency. He was president, but the case now is still continuing.
Yes, unfortunately, we've said this a number of times. In fact, we've made an event where we bestowed the title of Father of Radical Economic Transformation upon the man, President Jacob Zuma. So President Jacob Zuma remains the symbolic figure of a true revolution. So whether he is still in office or out of office, he remains the symbol, the leader of revolutionaries. So they will not rest until they see to it that they defeat him. And as forces of radical economic transformation, we must defend him, we must stand with him and fight for true liberation of black people in this country.
Nkosentshashezi, you've always said that you also believe that there was political interference in this matter. You still stand by those. And there's a lot that has been now shared by the former president. He had said that when he was still president, he could not speak around the matter. But we've heard him now mention certain names of leaders of the ANC that he believed were part of this conspiracy. So you still very much believe that there was political interference. Is there anything else that at this point now you're able to share with our viewers? Any additional information? I mean, I take it from the fact that there was a letter. At the last appearance, you'd remember Advocate Skakana bringing in a letter which from the former president's defense side said that it further substantiated the argument of political interference.
Of course, it's just described a very sad period in our history where the white monopoly capitalist agenda is at a hegemony in South Africa. In fact, anyone who try to resist their agenda, they will come crashing. To an extent that, as a Christian, I wonder if we have not really entered a stage where certain individuals will be nailed to a point where they cannot even trade. Because you'd see that some people are alleged to be corrupt, even their bank accounts have been frozen without any court pronouncing. But we know that this agenda was pre-planned, and the very same leaders whom President Jacob Zuma has mentioned are in power even today. They carry on with their anti-revolutionary agenda.
All right, let's speak about the support. We know that you had said earlier on that today there was not enough time to prepare for the support for the former president, but you are saying that you are mobilizing now for the 15th, which was the holding date for the trial.
Of course we are. We're expecting people to come in their numbers on the 15th to come and support President Jacob Zuma. And we know that we don't even need to advertise that event because he's the man of the people. People love him wherever he goes. And even here in Pietermaritzburg, we shall be here in our numbers to support President Jacob Zuma and expose the lie that has been told about the man.
All right, Nkosi Ntsheshezi, thank you so much for speaking to us. Nkosi Ntsheshezi there, he's one of the organizers of the support for the former president. Of course, they're saying that they had expected, but they are disappointed by this outcome here at the Pietermaritzburg High Court. We are hoping as well to speak to the NPA, that is Natasha Ramkissoon Kara. Of course, there's a lot of media as well that are out here playing, so everybody's trying to grab guests and get reaction as people make their way out. But as Nkosi was saying, that on the 15th, they are going to be mobilizing support for the former president. He's back here in the Pietermaritzburg High Court on Tuesday, and that is when we will then find out from his defense team whether or not they are going to make that application for leave to appeal this judgment. But in terms of the state, and from the onset, the state advocate, the first time that the matter appeared, let me quickly now see if we can bring in, I do apologize, we are moving around, pulling guests between the different media houses, but we're now joined by the spokesperson for the NPA in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, Natasha Ramkissoon Kara. Natasha, thank you very much for agreeing to chat with us. I know you said you're going to be very brief, just the reaction from the NPA.
As the NPA, we respect the findings of the court. Yes, that's how short we are.
So you then obviously will have to wait for the former president, whether or not the legal route he'll take if he wants to appeal the matter?
Of course, yes, that is a legal avenue that can be explored by the respondents, and the state will obviously wait and see what transpires in that regard.
So Tuesday and the 15th will be back here in court?
The matter has been set down for Tuesday, 15th till the 18th, so we will be in court on that date.
All right, short and sweet, Natasha, thank you very much. All right, Natasha Ramkissoon Kara, they're saying that they're pleased with the judgment from the NPA, and as again reiterating what we have said, that on the 15th was the holding date for the trial, and they will be back here on the trial. So 15th expected to be a busy day again. There will certainly be a lot of people that will be mobilized to come and support the former president. And on that day, as I said, we will then possibly learn whether or not he's going to take this matter on appeal. Blaine.
Yeah, 15 is a key number because he'll have 15 days from today in order to decide or to apply for leave to appeal as well. Ayanda, we'll let you go for now. We'll try to come back to you in a short while to get more reaction on this breaking news story with regards to the application by former President Jacob Zuma for a permanent stay of prosecution that has been dismissed.